So I wanted to go through a quick reading update of all the books that I've read over the last couple of months, and then I'm going to go over my current read, and then I'll get into my TBR for the month of March. So I'll get straight into what I read during the month of February. I started the month with a new release for 2026, and that is Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman. Now, I did do a review of this on my channel, so if you want to know, what I thought about this in depth, go ahead and check out that review. So I won't say too much about it here, but this is it was kind of an odd book. I didn't had some mixed reaction on it. I didn't really like it that much, but I didn't hate it. It was just kind of right in the middle, and there are a lot of problems with this novel. And I know the Dungeon Crawler Carl series is very popular right now, which is what Matt Dinniman is known for, and so he kind of decided to go further into science fiction with this one, and just didn't hit quite right for me. The humor wasn't there. The plot was it just wasn't that great, wasn't all that compelling at times, but it did have some interesting elements in it. It's kind of about this planetary colony that is kind of a simple farming community, and then all these mechanized robots show up that are piloted by gamers back on Earth and start coming down and killing the people on this planet. So it's got an interesting premise, but just wasn't quite executed well in my opinion. So, like I said, if you want to know more, go ahead and check out that review on the channel. And after that, I kind of stepped away from science fiction and went to some historical fiction. I do enjoy reading historical fiction, and I read The Iron King by Maurice Druon. So this is, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones and George R.R. Martin, George got a lot of his inspiration from real history and also historical fiction, and he cites this as being the original Game of Thrones. So this is about Philip the Fair, one of the kings of France back in the day, and kind of the politics of the time, and what was going on during that period. And I did really enjoy this. It was a good book. And I can definitely see where George got his inspiration for Game of Thrones on this one. It's the first book in I think a 6 or 7 book series. So I do plan on continuing to read this in the future. But I won't be doing a review for this or anything since it's not science fiction, but I did enjoy it. And I would recommend it if you're a fan of Game of Thrones and if you're a fan of historical fiction. And the next book I read in February was a vintage science fiction, and I did this as a buddy read with Ira from SF Words of Wonder. So we did have a video discussion about this book on my channel, so I would encourage you to check that one out. We had a fun discussion on this one. It's kind of a straightforward, simple science fiction adventure story by John Brunner. It's about this listening device that becomes this popular craze in London, where people hear these strange noises and sounds, and sometimes it hears like maybe somebody's talking to you, or there's strange music or alien signals. Nobody really knows what it is, but they have this kind of euphoric sensation from it, and people get addicted to it. And also there are rumors that when people use this, they can mysteriously disappear. So it's a really simple story, but if you want to know more about it, go ahead and check out that video discussion with Ira and myself. We did have a good time with it, and I would recommend this book if you haven't heard of it or read it before. It's a quick read, and it's John Brunner. He is the author of the classic Stand on Zanzibar and The Shockwave Rider. So if you've read either of those books, but you want to check out more of John Brunner, here's a good one to look into. And the next big science fiction book that I read was in the beginning of March, and that was Children of Strife by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I don't have a physical copy of that book yet. I did read it from an ARC, And that book just came out this month. Its release date is March 17th. And I did do a full review of that one on my channel. So please, if you're interested in the Children of Time series and his newest book, Children of Strife, go ahead and check out that review. I did enjoy it. It was a fun book. It was a good book. Had a lot of interesting ideas and concepts, but I also had some problems with it. It wasn't a perfect book by any means, but I think if you want to know more, you should definitely check out that review on my channel. And if you're a fan of Adrian Tchaikovsky, then I'm sure you've probably already read, at least read Children of Time by now. And this, of course, is the 4th book in that series. And Tchaikovsky's always writing a new book. He's like 3 or 4 books per year that he puts out. But yeah, anyway, go ahead and check out that review on my channel. I think I did a pretty decent job of giving a general overview and kind of my likes and dislikes of that book. So if you're on the fence about reading it, maybe you read Children of Memory and didn't enjoy it, like I didn't really enjoy Children of Memory, which is a 3rd book in that series. But I think I give a pretty good overview of what the book was and, if it's worth reading or not. So. And then after Children of Strife, I went into reading a Peter F. Hamilton book, and this is Salvation Lost. And this is the 2nd book in his Salvation Sequence trilogy. So it continues on the story from book 1. I am not going to do a review of this because it's a continuing story. You got to read all 3 books to get the full story here. And this is just the middle part of that story. But I did really like this book. It was a very good book. It is kind of an alien invasion story, and it deals with some of the strategy and tactics behind preparing for this alien invasion, which I think we'll see more of, and the conclusion to, of course, in the 3rd book in the trilogy, which I would like to read fairly soon. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but it's a really it's a fast-paced book. It's got a lot of interesting stuff in it, and I'm really enjoying the story so far. And my most recent read is another new release for 2026, and it is After the Fall by Edward Ashton. So this is the guy that wrote Mickey 7, which of course got turned into a movie. And this one is quite different from Mickey 7. It's about Earth after the fall of human civilization. So these aliens called the Greys show up on Earth, and they kind of turn the remaining humans left. There aren't very many humans left on Earth. They kind of turn them into pets. So it's about this Grey his name is Martok, and his human pet, John. It's a very light-hearted story. It's not really a serious story at all. Martok is this, he's very close to poverty. He's like this poverty-level Grey. So him and John never have any money, and Martok has these wild ideas about how to generate wealth and survive, basically. And he gets him and his human pet John into this bad situation that leads to some interesting things as the story goes along. I mean, I like the characters enough. It's one of those stories where the characters are incompetent, which I don't always like that. I like to see experts. I like to see professionals as the main character in my stories. I like to see scientists. This is not that kind of story. Martok is kind of a moron, and so he's this very kind of bumbling oaf of a character. And John is his human pet that's lived with him for 12 years. And, well, they call humans bondsmen. So they don't really call them pets. They call them bondsmen. But they're bought and sold and traded and all that sort of thing. So they're basically slaves to these Greys. And Martok's kind of has a special relationship with John because he doesn't treat him poorly. He treats him a lot better than most Greys treat their humans. But this book was just okay. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't that great. I just kind of liked it. And the characters didn't grow on me until the second half of the novel, near the end of the novel. At times at the beginning of this book, I kind of wondered, like, am I going to hate this book? I thought about DNFing in the first 50 pages, but I kept with it and ended up kind of liking it. So I don't know if I would recommend this one. It's not as good as Mickey 7. So if you liked Mickey 7, this is it's not quite the same. It's the same kind of novel, and with Edward's tone of kind of being a lighthearted story, but it just wasn't, the plot wasn't as compelling. So I'm not sure that I would recommend this one. But I mean, at least it was a quick read. It wasn't a serious story. It's kind of a buddy comedy type of story. So if you're into that sort of thing, maybe you'd like it. But it was just, it was okay. So I don't really have much more to say about it other than that. It doesn't really have any interesting ideas or science fiction concepts in it or anything like that. It's not really that kind of a story. I'd like to talk a little bit about Asimov's science fiction magazine, this particular issue. This is the January-February issue for 2026, so I did read through this. I'm not going to talk too much about these stories. The stories in this issue were really good. This was a very good issue, above average, I would say. It's got some really interesting stories, really well-written stories. The Greenway by Susan Palwick was a really neat story. Also, there's a story in here called The Tourist by R.T. Esther that was kind of a time travel story that was really, really fascinating. I really liked it. It's about this bank of, I think it was called like the Bank of Zero or something like that, where this bank is set up to where people can travel through time to other timelines, and there's like an infinite possibility of timelines, but you have to pay for it to use it. So this guy is traveling through this other timeline, but it happens to be that he is from a timeline that doesn't use any kind of money or currency. So he like has no money, but he can't get back to a different timeline because he's stuck here because, like he said, he has no concept of money. But what he does is, and what the bank allows you to do, is these people can travel through time to a different reality. They can bring something back from that reality and sell it on this market where people are buying things from other realities. You know, depending on what they are, that you can make a whole lot of money. So he goes out, he like steals artwork and things, and like he's just going to these other realities and stealing things and then bringing them back to sell on this market. Anyway, really interesting story. It was my favorite of the issue. And I would definitely recommend trying to read that if you're able to get a hold of it. I know that back issues of Asimov's are kind of difficult to get a hold of. I don't know. So they do sell these in like Barnes and Noble, but sometimes they're a little bit late in actually getting the magazine into the store. So this may or may not be in Barnes and Noble at the moment. But if you're not subscribed to Asimov's, I'd at least pick it up to read that issue at least, or to read that story at least. It was a really good story. And then we also had a story called The Lady in Camo by John Richard Turtek. That was another really great story. It's kind of a cyberpunk feel to it almost, but yeah, I don't want to get too much further into the stories other than this is a really good issue. What I really want to talk about though is, so I subscribe to the digital version of Asimov's because I find it more convenient to read off an ebook for short stories. But I also like to collect the physical copies, and it's been a few years since I've subscribed to the physical collection, and I recently subscribed to 2 years of it to get the physical copies, and I got a discount rate for it. But this was the first issue of my new physical subscription, and I'm a little disappointed because so if you can tell here, maybe you can't tell, I'm gonna put the digital cover up on here so you can compare. But the color on this cover is like very faded compared to the digital cover, And I'm wondering if there's some like kind of printing issues going on with this particular issue, because the expectation was the colors were going to be a lot more bold than this. So I don't know. I know they've been having some printing issues with the last issue. The November December issue was late shipping out for people, is what I heard, because of printing issues. So I don't know if it's like a continuing thing. So let me know does anyone subscribe to Asimov's, and did you get this issue? Was your copy, did it look like this? Did it look like the colors were faded? And also the way they shipped it. So the address label was on the front here. You can kind of see I ripped it off, but this is from that little white mark there is where I had to rip off the address label. And in the past, I vaguely recall when I've gotten this in the past, is they wrap these in plastic and then put on the address label. So that wouldn't happen. So when did that change? Or am I just not remembering it correctly? But I feel like if you're going to put the address label on, at least put it on the back. Like, because I'm the only reason I'm getting this physical copy is because I want to collect them, and I don't want the physical copies to have to rip up part of the cover. So is this something new? Have they always been doing that the last few years, putting the labels on the front cover? I mean, surely there's got to be a way to avoid that. Like wrapping it in plastic and putting the cover on the plastic. Because that was just, I mean, that's disappointing as a collector there. Because if I just wanted to read it, I would just read the digital subscription. And I know there's some weird stuff going on with Asimov's where they got a new owner and all this and kind of thing. So, and also like when I was trying to subscribe to this, their website wasn't working properly and I had to call the customer service to get it fixed. Now, I will say the customer service was fantastic. They were great customer service, but and the stories were really good. But like everything else about this, like what's going on, like this, I'm hoping this is just a one-off printing issue. I haven't got the March April issue yet in the mail, so we'll see if the fading of the printing is repeated. Hopefully not. And hopefully they can find a way to put the mailing label either on the back or wrapped in plastic or whatever. But let me know. Are there any magazine subscribers out there? Let me know what your issue looks like. So next, what we're going to get into is my current read, and that is Fearless by Allen Stroud. And this is a space opera. And I'm really enjoying this book. It was recommended by Robin over on his channel Bookspin, and he also has a interview with the author, and this is a 5-star read for Robin. So I'm about a third of the way through this. I'm really enjoying it. It's a really good book. Kind of seems like a book that maybe if you like The Expanse, you'd also like this one. So I'm really enjoying this one, and once I finish it, I'd like to talk more about this maybe in my next reading update. But yeah, it's not really a very well known book. I don't see many people other than Robin talking about this one. But that is my current read so far. It's kind of got it started off with a rescue operation out in space, out in the solar system, and it's turning into kind of a dangerous situation with kind of a space battle thing going on. But it's really fun so far, and I'm eager to read more of it and see what else Allen Stroud has to offer. So I did get a book sent to me also by Allen Stroud called Anti-State, and this is a book that is coming out very soon by Allen Stroud. It's not out yet. This is an arc that comes out in April 2026, but Flame Tree Press did send this to me, and they're the same ones that did Fearless. So I think it's supposed to be a standalone book, but it's set after the events of, this is the first book in a trilogy. So it's kind of set after those events, but it's supposed to be standalone. So I'd kind of like to read this in April, but I also kind of want to read the original trilogy first before I get into it. So I'm not sure. I might read this. I might not. Haven't quite decided yet. So I'm gonna read Fearless first and finish that, and then decide from there if I want to continue on with the trilogy or do I want to skip straight to his new book, Anti-State. So up next, getting further into my TBR, and this will be the beginning of April. After I read Fearless, I plan on reading Ghost of the Neon God, and this is by T.R. Napper. And this is a novella, so it's a modern cyberpunk novel. And I read a short story by T.R. Napper called The Hidden God. Really enjoyed it. It was a 5-star story for me, and I'd like to read more of his work, so I'm going to start with this novella. And then after that, I'm probably going to read a little bit of the March-April issue of Asimov's, which I have already started reading a couple of stories in it, but I'm going to probably continue with that issue, and that'll kind of take up my first week of April with those two reads. And then after that, I'm going to be reading the Fifth Head of Cerberus by Gene Wolfe, and this is a Sci-Fi SF Masterworks edition. So, and this is going to be we're planning a buddy read of this with Ira from SF Words of Wonder and Robin from Bookspin. So be looking out for that sometime in April, probably the second half in April. So be looking out for that, that discussion we'll be having of this one. And Gene Wolfe has a reputation for being kind of a challenging author to read. This is not a book in his Book in the New Sun trilogy. It's a standalone science fiction. I haven't read any of Gene Wolfe so far, so that'll be interesting to see how this one works out. And after that, I do not have a physical copy of the next book that I'm going to be reading because it is not out yet, and I don't have an arc of it either. But it is The Faith of Beasts by James S.A. Corey, sequel to The Mercy of Gods. And of course, this is from the authors of The Expanse. I'm a big fan of The Expanse. And I really loved The Mercy of Gods when that came out a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. That was my favorite book of the year at that time. So I've been really excited to get this next book into my hands. And that's going to be, as soon as I get it, that's going to be the first thing I'm going to be reading. And I don't know if I'll do a review of that on the channel. I might try to do kind of a short review just because it is a sequel. And I didn't review the first book on the channel. That was before I started YouTube. So I don't know, how useful it would be to do a review of a book that's supposed to be a trilogy and it's right in the middle. That's why I haven't reviewed the Salvation books yet, because that's a 3-part story. So we'll see. I may talk about it. I'll talk about it for sure in my next reading update. Might do a brief review on it, but we'll see. But I am excited for that one, and I can't wait to see what happens next in that story. And after The Faith of Beasts, what am I going to read? I don't know. I don't really plan out my TBR that far ahead. Even just the 3 or 4 books that I'm planning now is more than I usually plan for a TBR. So we'll see how it goes. There are a lot of other new books coming out that I have arcs for already that I'd like to read, including Platform Decay, which is the next Murderbot. So I'm going to be reading that at some point soon, late April or May. And also The Subtle Art of Folding Space by John Chu. I would like to read that one as well. I have an arc for. So we'll see. But I also have a lot of books in my library that I need to read, so I try to get those in, once in a while, so I'm not just reading new books. So I can at least mark a few books off my list that I already own. But we'll see. We'll see how all that goes. And that's pretty much it that I have for this reading update. Let me know in the comments, what have you been reading? What are you going to read? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.